The Dr. Terrance Drew Labour Party administration has restored stability in government for citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is the assessment of political analyst Peter Wickham in an interview with SK Newsline on Monday.
What the Labour Party needed to do was to essentially restore stability to the administration. And I think that definitely they have done. They have introduced some limited measures. They have given, promised a double salary for Christmas, which is a standard thing in St. Kitts and Nevis these days. So things like that are important achievements. But I think the most important thing is stability. You know, we saw a situation where a young prime minister has taken over. There were lingering concerns over the extent to which his predecessor in the Labour Party would have played a somewhat less constructive role. Thus far, he seems to have been able to keep the reins of government held fairly tightly, and things haven't gotten out of hand. So I would say that there's a contrast between the instability of the past under the Team Unity administration to the stability of the present, where you use a single solid government under one leader. And there is no rancor or disagreement within the ranks. And I would say that for the time being, that's good enough for Dr. Drew.
In commenting on the performance and leadership style so far of Prime Minister Dr. Terrance Drew, Mr. Wickham believes his approach is good for the new style of politics the country needs.
I think that St. Kitts politics was far too divisive over the years, far too polarized, and I think it is definitely needed. The fact that Dr. Drew appears to have embraced the path of least resistance, I think it's not a bad thing for Kittitian and division politics, and I wish him well in that regard. As to whether or not it will last, you know, one of the significant things about the Denzel Douglas administration and certainly the Timothy Harris administration is that a lot of the actions that they took when they were under pressure, and in many instances were under considerable pressure politically. In the case of Dr. Drew, he's going to have an interesting time in office because, and I hope that we get to this conversation later, I think the reality is that he has very little reason to fear being out of office for quite some time. He's a young person. There's a lot of time where he can work. And the reality is that opposition forces are not in a position to threaten him now or anytime in the near future. And I think against that background, he can take his time, he can be comfortable, and he can develop his own style of politics. And I think that there are many people in St. Kitts and Nevis who are ready to embrace that type of politics. Initially, that was what Team Unity went on. They went on a kind of gentler politics. If he is interested at all in recapturing some of the persons lost to Team Unity, that strategy makes perfect sense.
The Dr. Drew government completed its first 100 days in office last week, with the Prime Minister outlining the fulfillment of several campaign promises as progress so far in his new administration. The full interview with Mr. Wickham can be heard on Let's Talk St. Kitts and Nevis, a radio show on Voice of the Caribbean Radio this Tuesday at 10 a.m. at www.voiceofthecaribbean.net. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.